There is a certain kind of person who walks through this world like they were built for a different era. They sit in a crowded room and feel entirely alone. Not because no one is talking to them, but because no one is speaking their language. They notice things others walk right past. They feel things others have words for, but never truly experience. And for most of their life, they have been told they are too sensitive, too intense, too much, or simply not enough. But psychology tells a completely different story. What if none of that is a flaw? What if the very things that make you feel like you do not belong are the exact signs that you carry the rarest personality type on Earth? A type that research suggests appears in roughly 1 to 2% of the entire human population. Today, we are going to break down the 7 signs that you are one of them, and why being this rare is both the heaviest burden and the most extraordinary gift you will ever carry. Before we get to the signs, we need to understand what makes a personality type this rare. Most people have heard of the Myers-Briggs system. 16 types built from 4 dimensions of personality, but one of those types stands apart from all the others. It is called INFJ, Introverted, Intuitive, Feeling, Judging, and it is the rarest of all 16, estimated at roughly 1 to 2% of the population. But here is what most people get wrong. They think being rare means being better. It does not. Carl Jung, the psychologist whose work inspired this entire framework, never described any type as superior. He described them as different orientations of the psyche, different ways of processing reality. What makes the INFJ rare is not superiority. It is a specific combination of cognitive functions that creates a kind of inner architecture most people simply do not possess. Their dominant function is introverted intuition, or NI. This is not ordinary intuition, not a gut feeling, not a lucky guess. Introverted intuition is a deep, unconscious pattern recognition system that synthesizes enormous amounts of information over time and produces conclusions that feel like they arrived from nowhere. People with dominant NI often know the answer before they can explain how they got there. They see the destination before they see the road. Their auxiliary function is extraverted feeling, FE. This means they are exquisitely attuned to the emotional atmosphere around them. They absorb the mood of a room, sense what others need before a word is spoken, and carry a nearly unbearable weight of responsibility for the feelings of everyone they care about. When you combine a mind that sees hidden patterns with a heart that cannot stop absorbing other people's emotions, you get a personality that is breathtakingly perceptive and quietly exhausted. This is not just introversion. It is not just empathy. It is a specific neurological and psychological architecture that most of the world does not share and often does not understand. Now let us move to the signs. And if you see yourself in these, pay close attention, because the 7th sign is the one almost no one talks about, and it changes everything. Sign 1. You see the end before others see the beginning. This is the most defining trait of introverted intuition, and it is the one that isolates you the fastest. You have probably experienced this dozens of times. You meet someone, and within minutes you already sense how the relationship will unfold. Not because you are cynical, but because your brain has already processed 100 microsignals and assembled them into a trajectory. You hear an idea at work and instantly see where it will fail 6 months from now. You watch a friend make a decision and feel a quiet dread because you can already see the consequences they cannot. This is not pessimism. This is pattern synthesis. Your NI operates like a silent architect. It gathers data below conscious awareness, cross-references it with past experience, and produces an outcome that feels like certainty. The problem? Other people cannot see what you see. When you try to warn them, they think you are being negative. When you try to explain your reasoning, you often cannot, because the process happened beneath the surface. You just know. and this creates a deeply isolating experience. You are Cassandra, the mythological figure who could see the future but was cursed so that no one would ever believe her. You see the collapse before it happens, the betrayal before it occurs, the failure before it materializes. And you are forced to watch it unfold in silence, because speaking up would only make you the problem. The world does not reward people who see too far ahead. It rewards people who stay in the present and act on what is visible. But you were not built for what is visible. You were built for what is inevitable. Sign 2. Small talk feels like suffocation. But deep conversations feel like breathing. Most people use conversation the way they use a hallway, a path to get somewhere, a functional space. How was your weekend? Did you see the game? The weather has been crazy lately. These are not conversations to you. They are performances. They are social rituals that keep the surface smooth while the depths remain untouched. But your mind does not live on the surface. It lives in the deep water. You want to talk about why people destroy the things they love, about the moment a child realizes their parent is flawed, about the quiet terror of living a life that looks perfect but feels hollow. You want to discuss the architecture of loneliness, the neuroscience of grief, the philosophy of meaning. And this creates a painful friction. In social settings, you nod, smile, participate, but part of you is slowly suffocating. You feel like you are speaking a foreign language in your own hometown. You leave gatherings not physically tired, but spiritually drained because you spent hours translating your inner world into a vocabulary small enough for the room. Psychology has a name for this. It is called the need for cognitive depth, and it is directly linked to high openness to experience, one of the big 5 personality traits. Research shows that people with high openness do not just prefer complex topics, they are psychologically starved without them. Surface interaction does not merely bore them, it depletes them. You are not antisocial. You are depth-starved in a shallow world. Sign 3. You absorb other people's emotions, like a sponge, and cannot squeeze yourself dry. This brings us to extraverted feeling. And this is the sign that causes the most silent suffering. You already know how this works. You walk into a room, and before anyone speaks, you feel it. The tension between two people. The sadness someone is hiding behind a joke. The frustration radiating from someone who smiled at you 3 seconds ago. Your fae does not ask permission. It does not knock. It walks straight through the door and absorbs everything. This is not ordinary empathy. Ordinary empathy says, I understand your pain. Your empathy says, I am carrying your pain now and I do not know how to put it down. Mirror neurons fire in your brain as if you yourself are experiencing the emotion you are witnessing. A friend tells you about their divorce, and for 3 days, the grief sits in your chest as if it were your own. A stranger on the bus is anxious, and your own heartbeat accelerates to match theirs. People love being around you because you make them feel understood in a way most humans never experience. But the cost is staggering. You become the emotional regulator for every room, every relationship, every friend in crisis. You know how to soften your voice, choose the exact words, create safety for others, but no one seems to notice that the person who calms every storm is quietly drowning. And here is the cruelest part. Because you are so attuned to others, you often lose track of your own emotional reality. You become so skilled at reading and managing other people's feelings that your own go unnoticed. Like a nurse who takes care of every patient, but never checks her own pulse. By the time you realize you are overwhelmed, you have already been running on empty for weeks. Your empathy is not a flaw. It is a superhuman capacity. But a superhuman capacity without boundaries becomes a superhuman wound. If you have made it this far, and these signs are already hitting close to home, I want you to know something. You are not imagining this. What you experience is real. It is documented in psychological research, and it is far more common among this personality type than most people realize. Drop a comment with the number of the sign that felt most like you so far. I read every single one. And keep watching, because the signs only get deeper from here. Sign 4. You live an entire second life inside your head. There is a world inside you that no one else will ever see. It is vast, detailed, and endlessly alive. You rehearse conversations that may never happen. You construct entire scenarios. What you would say if someone hurt you. How you would react if everything fell apart. What you would do with your life if fear were not a factor. You revisit old memories and rewrite them. You imagine futures with such vividness that they feel more real than the room you are sitting in right now. Psychology calls this a rich inner world, and it is a hallmark of dominant introverted intuition. While most people's minds are oriented outward, toward the immediate, the tangible, the present, your mind is oriented inward and forward. It is a cathedral of thought, constantly under construction. But this inner world is a double-edged sword. On one hand, it is the source of your deepest creativity, your most profound insights, your ability to see connections others miss entirely. On the other hand, it is an escape hatch. When the external world becomes too loud, too shallow, too painful, you retreat. You disappear into the architecture of your own mind and close the door behind you. And sometimes you stay too long. The inner world is so rich, so controllable, so safe, compared to the chaos and unpredictability of real life, that it becomes a sanctuary that turns into a prison. You start preferring the version of life you construct in your head over the one that exists outside it. You become so practiced at living internally that the external world begins to feel foreign, like a country you visit but were never a citizen of. You are not detached, you are not absent, you are simply living in a dimension most people do not know exists. Sign 5. You crave meaning. So intensely that purposelessness feels like physical pain. This is the sign that separates you from every other deep-thinking personality type. Other types can tolerate a meaningless job if the pay is good. Other types can endure an unfulfilling routine if the weekends are fun enough. Other types can compartmentalize. Work is work, life is life, and meaning is something you look for in a book, not a paycheck. Not you. For you, meaning is not optional. It is oxygen. When your life feels aligned with your values, you are nearly unstoppable. Driven, focused, capable of extraordinary endurance. But when your life feels disconnected from purpose, something begins to break. Not gradually, deeply. You feel it in your body. A heaviness, a numbness, a kind of existential vertigo where you look around and think, is this it? Is this all there is? This is not laziness. This is not entitlement. This is what psychologist Viktor Frankl called the will to meaning, the deepest human drive, deeper even than pleasure or power. Frankl observed that people who lose their sense of meaning do not just become unhappy, they become hollow. They survive, but they stop living. For you, a meaningless career is not just boring. It is corrosive. It eats away at your sense of self. A relationship without depth is not just unfulfilling. It is suffocating. A day without purpose is not just wasted. It is physically painful. This is why you have probably changed directions more times than you can count, quitting jobs that looked perfect on paper, leaving relationships that everyone else envied, abandoning paths that were safe but empty. Not because you are reckless, because you are starving. And you would rather risk everything than spend one more day feeding yourself something that looks like food but nourishes nothing. The world will call you idealistic. It will tell you to be practical, but your idealism is not naivety. It is the most honest thing about you. You were not built for survival alone. You were built for significance. Sign 6. You see through people's masks, and it is both your greatest gift and your deepest loneliness. This leads to the 6th sign, and it is the one that makes you feel most alien on this planet. You see what others do not. You hear the silence between words. You notice the half-second delay before a compliment, the tension in a jaw that is trying to smile, the energy behind a sentence that sounds kind but carries an agenda. Your NIFE combination operates like a psychological X-ray. It reads motives, insecurities, and hidden agendas with a speed and accuracy that most people would find unsettling if they knew. And here is what makes this so isolating. You live in a world built on polite lies. Social life requires masks. The coworker who pretends to be happy for your promotion, the friend who says, "I'm fine" when they are falling apart, the partner who performs confidence while drowning in doubt. Most people accept these masks. They need them. Society is a shared performance, and most people are content to stay in the audience and enjoy the show. But you cannot stay in the audience. You are backstage. You see the props, the nervous sweat, the prompter's hand, and you are forced to choose. Do you say what you see and risk becoming the enemy? Or do you smile and carry the weight of a truth no one asked you to hold? Most of the time, you choose silence. You smile, you nod, you pretend not to know. But that silence creates a vacuum inside you. A space filled with unspoken truths that slowly compress into loneliness. You stand at a wedding and see the marriage is built on sand. You listen to a friend describe their perfect relationship and know that one of them is already halfway out the door. You attend a family dinner and perceive the decade of unspoken resentment beneath the laughter. You cannot unknow what you know. You cannot unsee what you see. And the cruelest irony is this. The same ability that makes you the most understanding person in any room also makes you the most alone. Because understanding everyone does not mean being understood by anyone. Sign 7. You have spent your entire life waiting to be fully seen, and that wait has shaped everything about you. This is the sign almost no one talks about, and it is the one that explains everything else. Every sign we have explored. The deep intuition, the emotional absorption, the inner world, the hunger for meaning, the loneliness behind the clarity. They all trace back to one wound. The wound of being perpetually unseen. You have been misunderstood your whole life. Teachers told you to stop daydreaming. Friends told you to stop overthinking. Partners told you to stop being so intense. Family told you to be more like everyone else. And every time you nodded, adapted, shrank. But inside, something was quietly breaking. Not because they were cruel, because they were wrong about you. And you knew it. And you could not find the words to explain who you actually were. This creates a peculiar kind of waiting. You are not waiting for money or success. You are waiting for a moment, a single moment, when someone looks at you and truly sees you. Not the version you perform, not the version they need you to be, the real you. The one who thinks in cathedral-sized thoughts. The one who carries the weight of other people's pain without complaining. The one who lies awake at 3 a.m. constructing futures that will never exist because the present is too heavy to face without a plan. This waiting is not passive. It shapes your choices. It is why you guard your inner world so fiercely. You have learned that most people cannot hold what you would show them. It is why you test people before you trust them. You need to know they will not run when they see the depth. It is why your connections are so few but so intense. You would rather have one person who truly sees you than 100 who only see your reflection. And here's the truth you need to hear today. The weight is not a flaw. It is not a sign that something is broken inside you. It is the most natural response of a rare personality type living in a world that was not designed for it. You are not waiting because you are unworthy of being seen. You are waiting because what you carry is extraordinary, and extraordinary things are not found on every shelf. When that moment comes, and it will, when someone finally sees you fully, without flinching, it will not feel like a reward. It will feel like coming home after a lifetime of exile, and you will realize that every year of waiting was not wasted. It was preparation. So where does this leave you? If you carry the world's rarest personality type, you already know the answer. You live in the tension between two truths. On one hand, you possess a depth of perception, empathy, and meaning that most people will never access. On the other, you carry a weight of isolation, overthinking, and unseen pain that most people will never understand. But I want you to hear this clearly. Your rarity is not a sentence. It is a signal. It tells you that you were not designed to fit into the world as it is. You were designed to see what it could become. Every sign we explored today, the intuition, the empathy, the inner world, the hunger for meaning, the loneliness, the waiting, these are not defects. They are the raw materials of someone who was built to create change, to offer understanding, and to hold space for truths that the world is too afraid to face. The world is loud about the wrong things. It celebrates the performance. It rewards the appearance. But you? You were built for what is real. And what is real rarely comes with applause. You do not need to become less of who you are to survive this world. You need to learn how to carry yourself with boundaries, to see deeply without absorbing completely, to understand without over-explaining, to wait without disappearing. Your awareness does not need to be turned off. It needs to be held wisely, like a candle, bright enough to illuminate, gentle enough not to burn the hand that carries it. If this video put words to something you have felt your whole life, leave a comment about the sign that fits you the most. I read every single one. And if you want more videos like this, you already know what to do. Subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it, because your understanding today might be exactly what someone has been waiting their entire life to hear. Thank you for watching until this moment. I'm Turn Wiser. And remember, your rarity was never your weakness. It was always your quietest kind of strength.